I quit my dead-end job, I went into massive amounts of debt, and I almost lost everything. But fortunately enough, I was able to make it out on the other side. I now make anywhere between $15,000 to $20,000 every single month. I'm changing people's lives all over the world, and I want to show you exactly how I did it in case you're stuck in college or you're working a dead-end job that you know is going nowhere. I have had quite the journey so far, so we're going to go ahead and start all the way from the beginning. I graduated from high school with a very low GPA. I was never the brightest student. I hated sitting in class, and so that ultimately resulted into me barely making it by. And I did what everyone told me to do, which was go apply to a bunch of colleges that I knew were not my calling. But somehow, some way, I was accepted into one based in San Francisco. And all of my peers around me were super excited about what they were going to go study at their college. And I almost felt like I just needed to go, regardless of if I knew what I was going to do or not. Long story short, I went for a semester and I absolutely hated it. It was high school with freedom, meaning I chose not to go to class because I had that option. And I overall felt like I just wasn't learning anything. I wasn't moving the needle forward in life in general. I didn't have high expectations or high standards for myself at the time, but it didn't help that I was being supplemented by a system that would bore me to death. So I dropped out after only being there for a semester. And because I was back to the real world, of course, I couldn't just stay home and do nothing. I had to go get a 9 to 5 like every other NPC out there. I searched for quite some time, and unfortunately the only thing I was able to come across was a janitor at a local gym. And as any normal person would feel about that job, I couldn't take it after a couple of weeks. So I needed to pivot and figure something else out. And so I decided to go towards the biggest supply chain in the world, which was Amazon. I started off as a sorter, meaning I was responsible for prepping the packages that were going to go out for delivery that day. And to be honest, it wasn't that bad because I was active and time would pass very quickly. But it was around this time where my mindset started to shift, and I knew I didn't want to work regular jobs anymore. I wanted more for my life. And just like everybody watching this video, I started to do my own research and ultimately went to the YouTube search bar and typed in how to make money online. Because I knew I didn't want to be in person anymore. I didn't want to be trading my time for money. And while I was doing my research and I came across building an SMMA or drop shipping, I knew that I needed to start crafting a little bit of a plan to find my escape. And I came to the conclusion that I needed to start saving as much money as possible because I knew I was one day going to crash. So I used my current situation to the best of its ability, and I started to try and boost my income by starting to get into management. And that's when I became an assistant manager for Amazon. And this is where the hard work came in. I started to work 10 to 12-hour days, and I even went as far as driving for DoorDash to make as much money on the side as possible. Once I had enough money saved up, I knew I needed a little bit of a blueprint to show me the way. How do I reach the online money that I'm trying to go after? And I bought into a $5,000 program that was going to show me how to build my own coaching business. Mind you, I had no skills at the time, and I have no idea why I decided to make this investment. Nonetheless, I am still happy I made it. I do not regret a single thing. I ended up moving away from my hometown, and so I had to transition into a different warehouse job where I hit my lowest point to date. I was making terrible money, the environment around me was excruciating, and I knew something had to be done. This was the exact moment where I knew enough is enough. I either threw in the towel and called it quits, or I was going to die trying. I needed to get my hands on this online money, whether that was through video editing or a coaching business. Whatever it is that I needed to do, I was going to do it. I took the scariest leap and I quit that job. And it was really hard to come to that decision because I did not know what would have happened if my account came down to zero, if I ran through all of my savings. But when I really sat there and I thought about what the actual worst case scenario for me was, it wasn't even that bad. The worst case scenario was I ran through all of my savings and had to go and get another 9 to 5. And yes, we would be starting from ground zero, but that is much better than losing our freedom, or even worse, not even having the opportunity of being on this earth anymore. So when I came to that realization, The pressure was off of my shoulders. I quit that 9 to 5 and I immediately invested another $3,000 that I did not have because I knew it was either now or never. I only had one vision in mind, and that was to start making online money. Now that my back was against the wall and I had literally no other choice, I could not afford to keep spinning my tires and trying to build a business when I knew I was not good for it. So I decided to take a step back and realized it was in my best interest to start to learn skills where I can still get paid, but I could also learn exactly how to build a business from the ground up. And I had used whatever network I had from the previous investments that I made. And that's when I stumbled upon the skill of learning appointment setting. All I had to do was answer DMs for other influencers. And luckily, I was able to land a job as a remote DM setter. But luckily, I was able to pick up the skill set very, very quickly. And almost immediately within my first month, I was making 2K. And then the next month I was making 3, and then 5, and then eventually hitting a personal record of $11,000 in a single month with just appointment setting, not including the other ventures that I have going on now. The reason I'm sharing this story with you guys is because had I not made that extreme decision that I did to quit my 9 to 5, use my savings and go all in and bet on myself, I would not be anywhere near where I am today. And if I'm being honest, I'd probably still be working a dead-end 9 to 5 right now. If you've been looking to dive into the deep end with no life vest to save you and test yourself to see whether you're gonna sink or swim, then do it. Because if there's one main takeaway that I've learned through this journey up until this point, is that there is absolutely no growth in being comfortable. If you're afraid to drop out of college because you feel like your parents won't forgive you, just do it. They'll forget about it. They'll get over it. I promise. If you're working a job that you absolutely hate, save some cash, live below your means until you can decide to take a chance on yourself. If you want to take the exact route that I took and learn a skill that'll help you build a business and pay you the way it paid me, then message me over on Instagram and we'll chat about what that'll look like for you. I'll see you all in the next video.